Hello friends, and welcome to our video today. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. Thank you to new friends and old friends, and also thank you to all those who have kindly subscribed to our channel and to our videos. It's really lovely of you to do that, and we just hope that you continue to enjoy our videos and that you receive something from them. So today, within spiritualism, it's Hydesville Day, and it's a day where we celebrate the birth of what we name as Modern Spiritualism. And Hydesville is a place in America, and on this day, 31st of March in 1848, which was 173 years ago now, there were three sisters named the Fox Sisters. There was Catherine, who at the time was 12 years old, and Margaretta, who was 14 years old, and their older sister Leah, who was quite significantly older. She was 34 years old. And on this day, all those years ago, they made successful communication with the spirit world. They'd had a series of knockings and rappings and tappings within their home, and on that day, once more, they had successfully communicated and discovered that there was indeed intelligent life behind these noises, that they weren't just random noises or creakings and rappings, because they devised a system whereby there were so many raps for yes and no. And also they devised an alphabetical system, whereby over a series of days, they were able to receive a message. And as we understand it, it's reported in history that the spirit person who was communicating was a gentleman by the name of Charles B. Rosna. And he was a local peddler, and he would come to the different houses and sell his wares from his bicycle with a big basket or container on his bicycle. And it was discovered that he had been murdered some long while before, and that his remains were buried in the cellar of their property. And this dear gentleman was able to make contact and communicate with these sisters. And as we understand it, again, it's reported in history that the elder sister, Leah, she wasn't actually there on the 31st of March, 1848. It was the two younger sisters. And if you just think about that for a moment, it must have been just extraordinary that here they are, these two young girls, and obviously they were very intelligent and clever, and to devise that system whereby they were able to discover letters and formulate words, and again discover that this was a person, this person lived in the earthly world. You know, imagine just how extraordinary that moment must have been, because it was proving that without a shadow of a doubt that you survived life after what we know in the physical world, that truly life does continue, and that even though we leave our physical body, we carry onward in the absence of our body, that we still live and that life is eternal. It's just the hugest revelation. And it's extraordinary to think what must have been going through those girls' minds. And, you know, from that time on, they were incredibly sought after for readings and sittings. And sometimes they would do up to 3 seances a day, the huge, huge demand that was upon them as a result of that day and that breakthrough, for want of a better word. And the message that they were given from this gentleman over a period, as I said, of several days, because obviously if you think how long it must have taken to establish every single letter, to then formulate words. But the message that then came forward over a succession of days was this: dear friends, you must proclaim this truth to the world. This is the dawning of a new era. You must not try to conceal it any longer. When you do your duty, God will protect you, and good spirits will watch over you. And really, you just think, wow, what an extraordinary message. The whole aspect of this communication is just so miraculous. And so today we celebrate that day, Hydesville Day. And we think about the Fox sisters, and not only them and their wonderful work that just was tireless, that went on for many years. But we think of all the pioneers of spiritualism, all the work that they did, and equally the scrutiny that they were under, the judgment, the fear that was projected toward them, and the accusations of fraud and witchcraft and all these other aspects, or possession, but how they knew within themselves that this was the truth. The resonance of truth was just so glaringly obvious and strong within them that set about a chain of events that indeed would change the course of history and the course of history within spiritualism, because spiritualism did exist before this time in 1848, as long ago back as the 1680s, and probably back as far as early as time began, when you think about the Native American Indians and how they would sit and come together around a fire and engage with their ancestors. And likewise, for example, the wonderful Aboriginal tribes, who would also do a similar thing, would dance and sing and chant and achieve an altered state in the way that they knew how to, the way that felt natural and truthful and with love. And to receive the wonderful wisdom and insights and healing and, these miraculous acts which happen over time, over decades and centuries. And here we are now in the modern day, and spiritualism is thriving, albeit in a very different way, the communication, than perhaps it was back then, that we are able to link with our loved ones and our spirit friends and those who help us, and that we are able to receive whole sentences in a dialogue as I'm speaking these words now, and that over the time of the evolution and the progress that has occurred, but again, not forgetting those wonderful pioneers who were so focused, so dedicated, and on the mission to offer the truth, never to preach, never to push anything in anybody's face, simply to offer the truth as they perceived it and as they were channeling that through. And just on a personal note, my dear great-grandmother, when she was living in the earthly world in about the 1880s, 1890s, she then went on to become a working medium. And at the time of the First World War, she would hold her seances at home, and separately from that, she would do tea leaf reading, and she had a crystal ball. And the clients would come because they would want to know what had happened to their husbands, their partners, their sons. Were they still alive in the earthly world? Had they moved on? Had they left this world? And back then again, the aspect of predictions, and it was sometimes labelled as fortune telling and all these aspects, but nevertheless, the truth was that like my dear great-grandmother and many working mediums, they were able to connect and receive communication from these dear loved ones and bring forward evidence and proof that it was them. And they would bring forward memories of things that had happened when they were in the earthly world, living here, that their loved one, the client who was receiving their message, their reading, their sitting, was able to understand. And really, that is just extraordinary. And likewise, to bring their messages through of what they're wanting to say, bringing their comfort, their joy, their laughter, their encouragement, their upliftment, and to just be enfolded in their love and their presence and the healing. Because as we know, healing, the power of healing within words is so strong, so beautiful. And so today also, I acknowledge my dear great-grandmother, Grace Mockridge, and that's her photo just there behind me, and all the wonderful work that she did in serving her local spiritualist church, sort of in the London area of England. Because really, all of them are so inspiring, even to this day, for what they stood for what they believed in. And again, for their tireless work. You know, some of the pioneers, again, so many years ago back in history, would travel the world offering the truth. They would get on a boat for months on end, not knowing how that adventure would unfold, and perhaps leaving family members for long, long periods of time. But nevertheless, they were on a mission of truth, and offering that. And to my mind, that's just extraordinary. It's wonderful, it's fabulous, and just truly is an unending source of inspiration for us here now, living our lives. And you know, the footprints that they have left behind, to this day, they are spoken of, these dear pioneers, the work that they did and that which they achieved. So I would encourage you to do a bit of investigation or a bit of reading, a bit of research, if you feel that way inclined, because truly there are so many pioneers who just did so much work within healing, within trance mediumship, physical mediumship, within the seance room. And it really is extraordinary to see and have an understanding of how the communication has changed over time. And again, here we are now in the modern day, in engaging with computer devices and being able to offer and reach people who we may never physically meet, but yet who we are all connected to, because we are all spirit. And this is the thing as well, that for the very fact that we are all spirit, then therefore that means we are all naturally mediumistic. But for some of us, we are living a very earthbound life, perhaps very focused in our careers and relationships and matters of finance and health and all these other aspects. But for others, maybe they are able to have time and space and opportunity to explore the spirit within, to explore your own mediumistic gifts. And whether that happens at a young age or middle age or old age, it really doesn't matter, because there is always a potential and an opportunity to open that door and explore. And really, when we think about it, you know, humanity as a whole, we're always filled with questions, wanting to learn and understand and know why and what does it mean. And certainly, again, within spiritualism, perhaps there are even more questions, because there is so much scrutiny. And again, through the passage of time, there have been those mediums who, for whatever their reasons may be, maybe they felt a huge amount of pressure to perhaps make choices which weren't so advantageous for the benefit of all, or perhaps weren't coming from a point of truth. And really, it's sad when that does happen and there is this aspect of inauthenticity. But nevertheless, as we all understand in life, where there is light, there is dark. Where there is love, there is confusion and fear. And that's no different within spiritualism or within everyday life. But nevertheless, here we are again today celebrating Hydesville Day, celebrating the Fox sisters, and indeed all the pioneers of spiritualism and of modern spiritualism, which again, the origins being from 1848 to this current day, to this moment. So we'll just leave those thoughts with you. And I do understand that my dear spirit friend Brian would also like to step closer to blend his awareness, his inspiration with me, and just offer a few words from the spirit side of life in regard to Hydesville Day and that which we've been speaking of today. So I will just take a few moments just to soften my thoughts, quieten my mind down, and invite my dear Brian to step forward. And then when he does then step back, I will conclude our time together in prayer. Dear ones, it is with the greatest of pleasure that we step forward in this delightful opportunity upon this very happy day and occasion of the anniversary, which is now known in your modern times as Hydesville Day. When we reflect upon this significant occasion within history and the history of spiritualism, and the course of events that did then occur as a result of this happy occasion, we would liken it to man's first step upon the moon, as you would understand. Because indeed the step that was taken in the very act of successful communication was extraordinary. It was indeed an enormous breakthrough. And as the passage of time did then continue to pass by and unfold, this did add a great momentum within the spiritualist movement. Because you see, it did shine a light upon the very fact that life did exist beyond the physical earthly world of matter. That when one left the earthly world, that life did continue in the absence of a physical body. And you see, with evidence such as this, these rappings and tapping and noise, of course, these can sometimes be as a result of earthly occurrences. But you see, because these were sustained over a period of hours and days, and that there was proven intelligence behind that which was occurring, and then evidence to back it up, as you would understand in your modern expression and terminology. That this dear gentleman was speaking his words, albeit in the absence of a voice, but communicating and tapping and making these noises in such an order and such a fashion as to formulate words which could be understood and received. You see, this did then pave the way, so to speak, as you would understand, a multitude of further exploration and experimentation, and has, as we understand it and are acutely aware, manifested in the modern day with that which we would describe to be a very fluid method of communication. For remember, dear ones, that your own learning is indeed our learning. And how fortuitous it is to be able to have countless opportunities to prove and give evidence of survival of life after physical death, to be in a position to offer the truth. And as we have spoken upon previous recordings in regard to the truth, only each of you will feel the resonance of truth in your own unique manner. Nothing can ever be put upon you, of course, that would be quite inappropriate and improper. But you see, it is our understanding that the truth does stand the passage of time, and that even though through man's lack of understanding at times and fear, and the way in which perhaps through the passage of time there have been events that have occurred which have sullied and darkened the name of spiritualism, but yet you see in a very positive aspect this has shone a light upon spiritualism, forgive us, even more so. And of course, where there is a lack of understanding, this cannot help but then germinate a greater fear. But equally, how wonderful and marvelous it is to be in a position to offer the light and the truth and the love, which hopefully over time will dissolve that fear, will release that fear, will bring about a time of a greater awakening, a dawning of a greater light. We do indeed join with our own dear one in thinking of and extending our love and deepest gratitude to all those pioneers within spiritualism, and not only the pioneers who did take those first steps in their extraordinary gifts and the ways in which they were able to communicate, but you see, we acknowledge and stand in gratitude for every single life, for every single spirit, and we celebrate this day, reminding us of the evolution and progression of the divine light within your spirit. We encourage each of you, dear ones, to make your investigations thoroughly and at your own discretion, if it is your desire to do so. For within spiritualism, it does indeed have the great, wondrous act of proof, of evidence, of that which perhaps you would deem to be without doubt. But of course, only you can arrive at this if you wish to do so in your own time and in your own method. But nevertheless, we encourage you in exactly that, to explore, to ask the questions that you have, in the dearest hope that the answers shall be gleaned. We have indeed travelled very, very long way within spiritualism. And there is, once more, much to look forward to as we continue to progress and evolve and step forward in light and truth and love. We do indeed look to a time in the dearest hope that we shall be able to continue to step forward, to make ourselves known, so that those who are present and gathered will not only be able to sense their dear beloveds who have travelled onward to our realms, but to see and to hear once more the miracle that is eternal life. As always, dear ones, we bring our love, our joy, our healing to each of you and offer it. Celebrate this special day, the day when the veil between the two worlds did lift so very significantly, which did then once more pave the way, as you would understand the expression to be, for that which then did follow within spiritualism. We leave our blessings with you, dear ones. Our joy and our hope for all that is yet to unfold in each of your lives, and also within this blessed movement within spiritualism. Upholding the love and the truth of the divine in every instance. We shall now wish you a good day. Or perhaps indeed once more it is evening. Bless you, dear ones, and all those that you love and cherish and are within your heart and your mind, particularly at this time. So we'll just take a moment now just to offer a prayer. Divine Spirit, Mother Earth, Father God, as we come together in this moment and focus upon the love of our spirit, the love of all life in both worlds and your divinity, we offer our gratitude. Our gratitude for our lives and for this special day, Hydesville Day, for the Fox Sisters, and for all the pioneers of spiritualism and modern spiritualism. To all the teachers in the earthly world who work so tirelessly in championing the truth and in passing on their knowledge to those of us who are inspired and wish to learn and understand more deeply, perhaps, matters of the spirit and our own spirituality. So we sit in gratitude and offer that gratitude to our dear teachers and pioneers of spiritualism. And even more broader than that, to all life, our families, our friends, who have all taught us so much along the way in our lives up to this point. For the opportunities that we have to help ourselves and each other, to evolve, to step forward and continue on our pathway. Our pathway in the earthly world of our physical lives. And though we understand and acknowledge that there are many, many challenges along the way, many difficulties and emotional wounds and traumas, so many things to overcome, but nevertheless, there is so much love and joy and encouragement and support and kindness. Let us focus on the light and the truth as we understand it to be and perceive it in our own unique way. Let's continue to lift our eyes to the heavens in the dearest hope that we may continue to be inspired. Or perhaps when there are those moments when we are lacking in inspiration and motivation, and perhaps are feeling quite deflated by life and the difficulties of life, we ask Divine Spirit that in those moments you draw close to remind us that there is always hope as the new day does dawn, that love is eternal and unbreakable, without limit, without boundary, and in its purest form of being so unconditional. How blessed we are to be able to feel it and receive it and to offer it. It is a miracle. So we thank you, Divine Spirit, for everything that life does contain. Life here on earth and life in the spiritual realms. And the way in which we are able to communicate with our loved ones and friends, our dear pets, our spirit friends, perhaps we may call them angels or guides. That you walk beside us and help us. And it's just such a miracle. so wonderful. So once more, we offer our gratitude. And we also send out our thoughts of love and healing to our world at this time, to all life, humanity, the animal kingdom, the natural world. And at this time, as the seasons have changed and spring is now here, and the new buds on the trees and the plants begin to open and blossom, we thank you, Divine Spirit, for the bounty and the beauty of nature and the power and the resonance of that natural light and love and expression of light and love. May we continue to step forward into the fullness of our lives even more so. Perhaps at this time dusting ourselves down as we embrace that springtime and new life, and knowing in our hearts that every day we are able to begin again, to continue. We thank you. And we offer once more our gratitude, our love, the blessing of life and communication between our two worlds, and truly that there is no separation. Amen. Well, friends, we do hope that you enjoyed this time together today, and that your Hydesville Day celebrations are fabulous, but also acknowledging that for those who maybe are not spiritualists, that truly it doesn't matter. And I don't say that in any flippancy or disrespect. I mean that with love, insofar as whether you're celebrating this day in particular or not for Hydesville Day, it's still a day to be celebrated. And the beautiful springtime that is now here all around us for us to just inhale and enjoy and absorb. So do please take care. Enjoy the sunshine. And until we're joined together again next time, as always, we send lots of love to each and every one of you. God bless.